Pleasant April 19, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gavin Batista, your host at the Prosperity Channel. I know that many of you are vacationing right now because it is Holy Saturday, but things just are so fast, ladies and gentlemen, that I am being pressured by so many investors of mine, and our audience is simply multiplying all over the world. And they want quick answers, and that's why I am giving you quick answers. So we have two topics for today. Number one is about the Philippines, and this is about the Philippine video. We would like to end, this is going to be one of the final sequence on all about the Philippines, and then the other video would be right after this, focusing in solving finally the mass shootings in America et al. So let me get to the main question. Why are there certain Filipinos here, of all places, Oklahoma, hounding me every single day? It's very simple. And if I may borrow the term of former President George W. Bush, why is Gavin Batista having this paparazzi? Believe me, Mr. President, I do not want them at all to be following me like a dog. And that is why I would also like to direct this video to Senator Imee Marcos, that you are being fooled by these individuals. Again, this is all based on evidence, not the Tisha Cruz evidence or evidences. So before I get into that, it is very clear to all my millions of Filipino viewers in Metro Manila, Luzon, Visayas, my golly, my following there is unbelievable. Please continue to like this video. And Mindanao. So Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and Metro Manila. And they're all asking me one thing. Why is the Philippine economy down? And the answer is very complex. Number one, kung titignan nyo ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas ngayon, ang karamihan ng mga CEO ay mga dayuhan. The problem with the Philippine economy, I'm now translating this in the American vernacular so that our audience, the American audience, can be properly informed. The reason why the Philippine economy continues to be down, despite the very earnest, the very urgent policies made by President Bongbong Marcos, fondly called as Bongbong. He is the junior of former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. And it reminds me, during the time way back of Cory Aquino, Fidel Ramos, Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, President Erap Estrada, and the list goes on. Now with Duterte, and now President Duterte, and now former President Aquino, Noynoy Aquino, and now President Bongbong Marcos. They all have the good intentions. They all have the great plans. But the cabinet members continue to stumble and could not translate the big plans into reality, making the Philippines continuing to be the very, very sick man of Asia, the in sick man of Asia, because most of the people that are getting wealthy every single day are not Filipinos. Because as I was telling you, ladies and gentlemen, my friends in the Philippines, my professional co-workers in the Philippines, is that we are second-class citizens. At ang yumayaman lamang naman dyan ay ang mga inchik. That's why the Filipino people at large continues to be poorer by the day. And we continue to suffer the Rosario curse, who was the former executive vice president of the GSIS, that destroyed completely up to now, which is reverberating every single day in the Filipino economy. The massacre, the rape of the Philippine GSIS treasury that led into the central bank treasuries. That's why every single government, in fairness to President Bongbong Marcos and to President Marcos Sr., wala talagang pera. Ubus eh. Pagka-imprenta, ilalagay sa tresurero, nanakawin yan kada termino. For every term, whatever is left in the treasury is robbed, except during the time of President Benigno Noynoy Aquino Jr., fondly called as Noynoy. He was the only president that was smart enough because he's an economist. And even Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, who had a tangle with him or a squabble, now sees how intelligent President Noynoy Aquino was. And if he hired the right ES executive secretary, the Philippines could have been the next industrialized country. Easily. But what happened? The education secretary fumbled. The ES could not even come out in the public on what programs have been already implemented to date. DPWH Singson was pretty good, but he could not keep up with the big plans of an industrialized nation. But I salute, don't get me wrong, DPWH Secretary Singson, because he was a one-man army. Yung kanyang mga galamay talagang hindi makasabay. You know, they could not continue with the trend of the Philippine economy directed towards industrialization. And that's why to former Senator Nicky Cosseteng, if I were tomorrow morning to become the next central bank of the Philippines will become overnight an industrialized nation. Because in fairness to President Bongbong Marcos Jr., the problem is not really what's happening about Sibuyas and all of these small-time issues. The problem is intellectual bankruptcy from the current central bank governor and his monetary board. And that's why to DOF Secretary Ralph Recto, if you need my assistance, let me know. I am at 405-503-8511. I am on Viber, DOF Secretary Recto, at 503-8511, and my email address is at superdeals1494@gmail.com. And my other email, because I get thousands of email every day, my other email address to give you quick action is midwestern91@gmail.com. And therefore, Secretary Rector, time is of the essence. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is always looking at me, for your information, because I am about to solve the inflation problem of the United States of America. I know that Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo had certain issues with me, but sabi ko nga, Secretary Recto, wala kaming alitan ni Gloria. Sabi ko, mga chismis lahat yan. Okay? Wala kaming alitan ni, what is name? Bernas, ni Luigi. Nakita kami sa peninsula niyan when I was there. I thought we were going to have a conversation, but, I think he was just appointed as the head of the Makati group in Forbes Park. But wala akong problema kay Gloria, Wala akong problema kay President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. Wala akong problema kay Luigi Bernas. In fact, we supported him when Gloria was being hit left and right. So, puro chismis lahat yan, These are all gossip between innuendos and squabbles between me and former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, and together with my batchmate at the Ateneo de Manila University, Luigi Bernas, and his wife, I believe, is Lulay Arroyo. So I don't know where all this stupid gossip is coming from. But I can tell you one thing, Mr. President, President Bongbong Marcos. I can solve the Filipino peso's constant sinking day by day by what I call as the Philippine peso's revaluation. At sinabi ko yan kay Henry Akende, na bata siya ng mga SM, di ba? Mga Shoemart, no? But I don't know what happened, to Henry Akende. But I will follow that up, because I'm not bluffing anybody here, They are the ones destroying me. That's why I'd like to get to the next level. Wala akong hinuhusgahan dito, I am not judging anybody here. They are the ones so jealous about me that they attack me, malign me, sinisiraan ako ng araw-araw niyan. At ako ang hinuhusgahan. Ako ang winawasak. Ako ang sinisiraan. Ako ang ginagahasa financially and morally. And again, this is based on fact. Ito ay may ebidensya. Ito ay may affidavit. So I don't know where all this gossip is going all over town. Because the fact of the matter is, all what we read when I was at the Ateneo de Manila University College of Economics is all garbage, except for Milton Friedman, Mr. Milton Friedman, the superstar economist still today in the world. But because of my interest edging and my ability to react quickly, tomorrow morning, that 2% will be achieved based on directional setting planning systems. Parati ako ninanakawan dito, an Atenean in Irvine, California. Ngayon lang nalaman ng Johnson & Johnson. Akala, niloloko ko ang Johnson & Johnson. Ninakawan ako sa FedEx. Pilipino yun, sa Irvine, Barangka. My proposals were robbed in a FedEx office in Irvine, California, by a FedEx employee who happened to be what? Filipino. So, I don't know where all of this nonsense gossip are going around, Senator Imee Marcos. Because I will tell you one thing very clear. You are being fooled by these animals, which I am going to enumerate one by one. Because let's face it, as I was telling the immigration officers of the U.S. Embassy, it would be a very big asset if you were to focus on Filipino scientists coming from UP Diliman, Ateneans coming from Loyola Heights, Lasalites coming from the Manila side of Taft, Manila, and people coming from probably San Beda. But that's basically it, Charlie. That's it. Outside that realm is a big risk. What do you mean by big risk, Gavin? Big risk because I don't know how they can contribute to this great society, which we call the United States of America and its trust territories. Because the truth of the matter, and this is based on affidavit, by the way, because I'm filing charges against them. They're here to rob me every single day. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. They make money by stealing information from me by going into my two private home offices at 8101 Westwood Circle, Oklahoma City, 73127 zip code. And the other one is this one, which we're renovating again, at 9200 Northwest 71st Street, Yukon, Oklahoma, 73099 zip code. And therefore, to Jaime Zobel de Ayala, Fernando Zobel de Ayala, and the comebacking chief executive of the Ayala group of companies, Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala, I don't think you should listen to people like Jerry Francia. I don't think you should listen to people like, what is this, Criselda Sandoval. And the list goes on. You can go direct to me, and you'll see what's going to happen with your great company. They're fooling you. They don't know the American system. I've been living in America since 1989, and I have developed my systems for the last 38 years and counting. And here they are, like this guy Jerry, parang, as if he is Douglas MacArthur and saying this and that. The last time I met him was probably 1992. Today is what? 2025. From a van salesman from Procter & Gamble in 1982. Today is already 2025. The decades I've developed was so rapid. I am considered one of the best economists in the world right now. Today, my record with Procter & Gamble has never been broken. And John Moeller knows that. Today, my records with Unilever has not been broken at all. Cheese Bro Pons Unilever. San Miguel Corporation is knocking on my door every single day. Because my record with San Miguel BMEG Feeds and Livestock Division up to date is the record of all records which Nestle adores. I'm talking about Nestle Purina. My record with Johnson & Johnson consumer and OTC, over-the-counter drugs, has not been broken at all. The Silver Award for Management Excellence that was won by J&J Philippines in 1995 was the very first award given to a subsidiary since 1886. Never has been touched at all. Why? Because all they do, as I said, is malign me here. And I'd like to be very clear, yung grupo ni Grace de Rosario tumitira sa akin dyan, you know? The family of Grace de Rosario keeps on destroying my good name. Why? Because she's related to Ben de Rosario, the #1 curse of America. And I'd like to be very clear, Ben de Rosario's family is trying its best to associate their name with the great name of Franklin, the family of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which is obviously saying, no, we have a wall there, Gavin. We have a wall there. And I told this for so many times. And to my millions of viewers, I promised you one thing. I will not be redundant. So I'd like to end that issue once and for all. Because Ben de Rosario is the curse to Philippine society. Ben de Rosario, on a per capita basis, you know, nandun na rin tayo, no? Kung sino mas malaking magnanakaw, si Marcos ba o si Ben de Rosario? Ben de Rosario stole more money than the Marcoses combined. Okay? I'd like to be very clear that. Ang tatay ko nasa PCGG chairman yan. Okay? Si Andy Bautista who's suffering right now here because hindi siya tinulungan ng mga bata ni Paquito Ochoa. Is suffering right now here. But it's very clear. Lahat ng pinaratang sa kanya ay kalokohan, you know. Si Tisha Cruz, tilapitan pa ako sa Hawaii. Nandun lang ako, nananahimik ako doon. Why? Because she lied. She lied. And what's happening right now in the Philippine government? Wala, puro mga amateur. Mahina talaga, kaya hirap na hirap si Ram Recto. As I was telling the group of Filipinos here in Houston, the number one problem we have in the Philippines is intellectual bankruptcy. Mga bobo talaga, walang pinag-aralan. Sabi nga mismo nung tatay ni Ferdinand Marcos Jr., si Ferdinand Marcos Sr., walang alam. Hindi nag-aral ng mabuti. Hindi nagbabasa ng biblioteka, mga biblioteka. Ang ihaharap sa yung mga mukha, yung mga katulad ni Willie Villamin na makapal ang mukha. Eh pag ginera tayo ng China, eh sinong sisihin mo? Yan, gusto maging senador pa. Remember, the war in Russia versus Ukraine started with the presidency. Russia did not respect Zelensky because Zelensky was just what? An actor, a comedian. So what did Russia do? They saw the opportunity and they were saying, that is, Gavin, amin yan. Ukraine is ours. Ukraine is ours. We have to attack them and get back what is ours. So magulo talaga dito. It's very, very toxic right now because we really lack good negotiators who understand both parties. And I am very confident that I can be one of the key negotiators for President Donald Trump to end this war once and for all. And believe me, you, as Elon Musk would say, you have to read a lot of books. Hindi madadaan sa mga patawayan. Hindi madadaan sa mga managat na bastos yan. Kabastusan, you know. You have to be cultured. You have to be educated. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to be responsible for what you're saying. Ang pinadadala dito ng mga sino ba nagpapadala dito? So I'd like to be very clear that with John Marie Concepcion. So, things are shaping up very fast for the Philippines if all my directives will be followed. Or if they cannot follow it, I will implement it myself. So I'd like to be very clear. If you're serious about this, ladies and gentlemen, and to President Bongbong Marcos, you can reach me direct at 405-503-8511, and you can go on Viber at 405-503-8511, or if you're very busy, just hit me with an email either at superdeals1494@gmail.com or Midwestern Business Advisors 91@gmail.com. That was my company, President Marcos. That is Midwestern Business Advisors LLC, Business Consulting Division. We have 9 divisions. And I told that to our good friend, Tony Daza. Tony Daza. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to end this very pivotal video and say to you one thing. Who are you going to trust to solve these problems in the Philippines? Who? Give me a list. And I will tell you only one thing. I am not confident. I am not trying hard to solve these problems because I have been a problem solver all my life. To all my listeners, listen to these words. I am going to definitely solve these problems based on the agreed plans, both short-term, mid-term, and long-term. At kung hindi ko magagawa yan, if I'm not going to do that, itong daliri ko, papuputol ko yan. I don't want to translate that in the American vernacular because in America we're very particular about language use, and it's quite non-American, or un-American to explain that. But I am not confident, but I am 100% sure it will be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Give me a like if you like what you heard. Because I am going to tell you this. In every administration, there are only a few cabinet members who can deliver. That happened for the last 6 decades in the Philippines. And if you will see history, it would be the cabinet members who would make that particular president great. And to President Bongbong Marcos, we do not want to be your tenure as president to become another so-called administration. Now is the time to be bold. Now is the time to make your move. And trust people who can achieve Good afternoon, and I will see you in a bit in our next program focusing on U.S. mass shootings that will end tomorrow morning if the plans will be approved by no less than our great president, Donald the Great Trump. Good afternoon, and see you in a bit. This is Gavin Bautista, your host at the Prosperity Channel. Give me a like if I made you prosperous again.